Good morning, everybody. My name is Agnieszka Piasecka, and I am here today to host a brief citizenship seminar for all of you in Santa Fe, New Mexico. This is one of many brief seminars that I will be hosting here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I will be back. Today we will start with a brief presentation of myself, who am I, and also I will give you a short presentation about the US citizenship, how to obtain it and what is involved, and I will also be answering all your questions that you have for me today. I'm going to be passing this notebook for you guys, and I will ask you to pass this notebook between each other and put your questions here. And in the end of the seminar, I'm going to review your questions and I will answer them. If you have any confidential questions that you would like me to answer in person, just please stay after the seminar and I will be able to answer your questions in person. I'm going to stay as long as I need to make sure that I addressed all your questions and concerns. So here is the notebook, and please just pass it in between each other as you go and put your questions here. Thank you. So let's start with a little brief info about myself. Who am I and how did I end up here? I am originally from Poland. I came to the United States in 2007 from Poland, and as you can guess, I am an immigrant myself. I came here, I first applied for a green card, I went through the entire green card process, and then I was able, after 5 years, I was able to apply for a US citizenship. Right now I am a US citizen, and I am also an attorney here in the United States. Before coming to the United States, I was already an attorney in Poland. However, after coming to the United States, I had to go through law school again and pass the bar exam in order to be licensed to practice here. One of my main areas of practice is immigration law, which I can practice all over the United States. I am very familiar with the process because I experienced it myself. And also I can understand immigrants well because I've gone through this myself. I know how they feel. I know the anxiety which comes with it. And I am here committed to help each of you to better understand what is involved with the US citizenship process, how to apply for it, and also I will explain a little bit about the Civics test. Civic test is required. Generally, in most of the cases, you will have to pass a civics test and a language test in order to become a citizen. You can apply for your US citizenship if you have been a US resident for long enough and if you had continuous physical presence in the United States, which means generally there are two types of requirements for people who are married to a United States citizen. At that point, they can apply for citizenship as early as 3 years after they received their green card. So basically, there is a 3-year limit, and you can apply 3 months prior to your 3-year anniversary. Another option is to apply based on 5-year presence, and in that case you don't have to be married to a US citizen. So regardless of your marriage situation, you can apply after 5 years of holding the green card, being a permanent resident, and there are other requirements. You also have to be physically present in the United States for more than half of the time. So 5 years back, you have to be physically present for at least 2.5 years. You can apply as early as 3 months, 90 days prior to your 5th year anniversary. Now, what is involved? You will have to file an application. It's an application that you can find on the USCIS website, or you can call them and request a paper copy. There are 2 ways. You can either apply online, or you can apply on paper. You will have to attach certain documents with your application. However, during this brief seminar, I won't be able to advise you which documents to attach, because it all depends on your individual situation. So it may vary from person to person. You always will have to attach a copy of your green card. So that for sure, front and back. However, other documents, it all depends. On your application, you will be asked to answer a lot of questions. It's a very long form that you will have to fill out, a lot of very important questions, and you will have to answer them truthfully. So basically, you cannot lie on your application. That would be a reason for denial. I always advise people to consult an attorney if they can afford it. It's better to go through this process through the attorney, because that way you are assured that you have someone to protect you, to have your best interest in mind, to advise you in case of doubt. There may be some questions which you may not know for sure how to answer, and here's where an attorney could be very useful, because they've done it many times, they have experience, they know what to expect, and they can also help you with preparation for your interview. Generally, the interview takes place at least a few months after you have filed your application. It varies, from state to state. So it may be, you may wait as long as 3 months up to over a year. So each application is different, and each state has different processing times, but at least few months usually have to pass. After you have filed your application, you will be called to appear at a USCIS local field office for your fingerprints, which is called a biometrics appointment. Not everybody will be called though, because the USCIS uses recently a new method where they check their file and they determine if they already have your fingerprints on file. If they do, they notify you in writing that you don't have to appear. However, be prepared, because they must have, in order to proceed with your application, they must have your fingerprints on file. So if they don't have them, you will be called for fingerprinting. And based on that, they will do your background check. After your fingerprints appointment, then you just wait to be called for the interview. The interview usually consists of 3 parts: language test, oral, written, and civics test. Since today we don't have that much time, I'm not going to go into great detail about the test, but I will just briefly touch bases to explain what those tests may look like. So basically, English, knowledge of language. They're going to test if you can understand English language, if you can communicate in English, and they will give you one simple sentence to write there will be like a little iPad in front of you on which you will write that sentence. And you will also have to say a sentence in English. So that's pretty easy for most people, So if as long as your knowledge of English is on intermediate level, you should be fine with the language test, the written and oral language test. That's not super complicated. It doesn't have to be grammatically perfect or orthographically perfect. However, what's important is that you fully understand what's being said to you and you're able to respond to the questions. So the officer not only gives you those sentences to write and say, but also they will talk to you and you will need to be able to communicate with them and understand what's being said. They're going to go first through your application form and check if all the information that you put in there is correct, if there are any updates that must be made, from the time you submitted it until the time you came to the interview. Something might have changed, so you need to update it at that time. And then once that's done, then they're going to proceed to civic tests pretty quickly. The civics test is a test that tests your knowledge about American history and American government. And they also have some general questions that I will also give you examples of. It consists of several parts. So part A, first part, would be principles of American democracy. Then another part is system of government. Another part is rights and responsibilities of US citizens. And then there's going to be some history questions, which consist of three parts: colonial period and independence, 1800s, and recent American history, and other important historical information. In the end, there are also questions about geography and symbols, which you will need to answer, and also questions about American holidays. So basically, there's going to be 10 questions asked, out of which you need to be able to answer correctly to 6. In order to be able to do that, you should study 100 questions. There is a list of 100 questions, which is available online on the USCIS website. Make sure to go to the USCIS website and not other websites. So it has to be the official list of questions, and you will need to memorize the answers to those questions. So they give you a list of all 100 questions with correct answers, and it's important that you memorize the answers as they are offered by the USCIS. If you answer differently than what they want you to answer, that may be an issue. Not necessarily, but most likely the officer may not like that. They usually like you to answer exactly the way they put it on their list. Now, I do get a lot of questions about the English language requirement. So as you may know, there are some exceptions, and sometimes people can take the test in their own language. So when does that happen? That happens usually when someone has been a resident for a very long time and has certain age. So for example, there are 3 types of such exemptions, and in common jargon we call them 50-20 exception, 55-15 exception, and 65-20 exception. So basically, the first one, you need to be at least 50 years old and hold the residency for at least 20 years. So you must have had your green card for at least 20 years. And in that case, you can show up to an interview with your translator. You need to bring your own translator. And you can take the civics test in your own language of your choice, but you still have to take the civics test. You will be waived from the requirement to pass the language test. Another exemption is 55-15, which means you have to be at least 55 years old and have had your permanent residency, your green card, for at least 15 years. And in that case also, you can come with your own interpreter and you can take the civics test in your own language of your choice, and you will be waived from the English test requirement. Now, there's another exception which is available for older people, so 65 years plus. So you would need to be at least 65 years old and have had your green card for at least 20 years. And in that case, your civics test will be a simplified one. So instead of having to memorize 100 questions for your civics test, you will only have to memorize 20 of them. So that's a huge help, for elderly people, so they don't have to learn 100 questions. That's the general list of exceptions which are available. I do get asked a lot also about medical exceptions. What happens if someone is just simply unable to memorize not even 20 questions? Sometimes it happens that someone may have a medical condition or problems with their memory and they cannot memorize the test and they cannot learn the language for the same reason. What happens then? You can apply for a medical exception, and that's different. In that case, you will need to go to a doctor, and that doctor will have to fill out a special immigration form. There is a form for that which your doctor fills out, and the doctor needs to state that you suffer of a medical condition. Not every medical condition will qualify, so it has to be a medical condition which has lasted or is expected to last for at least 12 months, and it has to seriously affect your memory. So you can either go to your primary care physician, make sure that the doctor knows how to fill out those type of forms. Not every doctor is familiar with immigration forms, and not every doctor will be able to fill it out properly. And if it's not filled out properly, it may be rejected. So you can either go to your primary care physician, or you can go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, someone who can examine you. If you do decide to go to another doctor who's not your primary care physician, I would suggest you bring your medical history records with you, so you can show it to the new doctor, so they can review your medical history before they examine you. So those limited medical exceptions are available. However, it has to be something serious, something which seriously affects your memory, because remember that civics test is not that difficult. Most people who study for it are able to pass it. A lot of those questions you may already know the answers to without even studying. So let me give you some examples of certain questions so you will see what it may look like. I brought here a printed version, so let me see. For example, let's go back to American government. There will be some questions about American government, and they may ask you, what is an amendment? You need to understand what an amendment is. What are the possible answers? You can say it's a change to the Constitution, or you can say it's an addition to the Constitution. Then they can ask you, for example, how many amendments does the Constitution have? and you need to answer 27. Another question. What is freedom of religion? Like this would be an example of a question that most people know the answer to without even studying. And the answer is you can practice any religion or not practice any religion. So you have a choice, practice or not practice. So that's government. Then let's see several examples of questions about system of government. There may be a question. What stops one branch of government from being too powerful? And the correct answers to such a question would be checks and balances or separation of powers. So whenever the USCIS gives you a choice of two possible answers, either one will be good. But like I said before, I suggest that you guys try to memorize those answers as they are given by the USCIS. Do not change the wording because it may become tricky. By changing the wording, you may change the sense of the answer and they may not accept it. You will be asked 10 questions and only 6 must be correct. So you're going to have 4 questions that you can go wrong on and you still would pass. Another example. What are the 2 parts of the US Congress? The correct answer would be the Senate and the House of Representatives. How many US senators are there? The correct answer, 100. Who does a US senator represent? Correct answer, all people of the state. Another very straightforward, simple question that most people know the answer to. We elect a president for how many years? 4 years. Another question. Who is the commander-in-chief of the military? That's another pretty straightforward question that most people would know the answer to. The answer is the president. What does the president's cabinet do? Advises the president. So those are your examples of questions regarding the government. Here, I wanted to also talk about there are some questions which give you way more possibilities to answer. So let's review those. Like for example, what are 2 cabinet level positions? So here they ask you to name only 2. However, they give you a possibility to memorize many of them and choose from them. So what are the cabinet level positions? Let's go through them. Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Defense, Education, Energy, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, Housing and Urban Development, Secretary of the Interior, Secretary of Labor, State, Transportation, Treasury, Veteran Affairs, Attorney General, and Vice President. So you have a lot of choices to memorize. So you just memorize the 2 easiest ones that come to your mind. And you only need to name 2. And there will be other questions that give you many possibilities to memorize. Like for example, under our Constitution, some powers belong to the federal government. What is one power of the federal government? You only need to name 1, but you can memorize 4. So there would be power to print money, power to declare war, power to create an army, or power to make treaties. Now let's move on to rights and responsibilities. So what are rights and responsibilities of US citizens? What is one responsibility that is only for United States citizens? So here you have 2 choices that you would need to memorize. serve on a jury, or vote in a federal election. Those are two responsibilities, but you only need to memorize one. Another question. What do we show loyalty to when we say the Pledge of Allegiance? Two possible answers, the United States or the flag. Now, let's move on to another set of questions. I see here my volunteer has already the book with questions ready. So yes, I can take it from you now. Thank you very much, and I will move on to your questions very soon. Let me just finish this section. So as I promised, I wanted to give you examples of the civics test questions. So we have here questions from the section American History. Who lived in America before the Europeans arrived? The two possible answers, Native Americans, or some people say American Indians. Both answers are correct. Another question from American History, very simple. Who was the first president? George Washington. There will be some questions from recent American history and other important historical information. So here you need to know just a little bit of basic American history. It may ask you, name one war fought by the United States in the 1900s. So here you can name World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, or Persian Gulf War. And the last section here that I want to touch bases on would be American holidays. Very simple. When do we celebrate Independence Day? Everybody knows that. July 4th. So those are examples of civic tests questions. Now let's move on to your questions, because I know that you wrote down some questions here for me, and the book was already given back. So let me see what you guys wanted to know, and let me briefly touch this. So now let's move on to your questions, the ones that you wrote down in the notebook for me. I know you guys wrote down some questions, so I want to make sure that I answer them. Let me see what you guys wanted to know here. Okay, someone wrote down the question, when can I apply for US citizenship at the earliest? So as I said before, in the beginning of our seminar, the earliest time you could apply for US citizenship would be 3 years after you received your green card, but under one condition: you must be married to a US citizen, and you must be still married and live with your US citizen spouse. So that 3-year period, that's a shortened period, which is available only to people married to a US citizen. Another wait period that is available to pretty much everyone who has had their green card for long enough and fulfilled other conditions is 5-year period. So if you have had your green card for 5 years and you also fulfilled other conditions, you can apply after 5 years, which means you can apply 90 days prior to your 5-year anniversary or 90 days prior to your 3-year anniversary for your green card. Another question. Which documents do I have to attach to my application? Well, like I said before, that depends. That depends on your specific situation. You can either try to figure it out on your own by reviewing the information which is available on the uscis.gov website, or you can consult an attorney, which I would strongly suggest. That's probably the best idea, is to make sure that you know which documents to attach, because that will depend on your situation. Generally, for sure, you have to attach a copy of your green card and a payment. So if you're filing online, it will prompt you to pay online. If you're sending a paper application, you'll have to attach either a check or a money order or a credit card authorization form. Another question. Where do I send my application? You send it to USCIS. However, the USCIS office sometimes changes the address to which you need to send it to. So I always recommend to go to uscis.gov website and check what's the current logbox for the citizenship applications, because they may change it from time to time. So you'll be sending it somewhere in the United States. Most recently, I believe it's in Illinois, Carroll Stream, Illinois, but that may change. So always make sure to check the correct address, and the address will also depend on if you're sending it through USPS office or if you're sending your application through a courier, FedEx or UPS. There will be another address for that. Can I ask someone to fill out my forms? Of course, you can ask someone to fill out your forms, but the smart way would be to, if you're going to have someone filling out your forms on your behalf, it would be smart to ask an attorney to do that, a qualified person who knows what they're doing, who has experience, and who's not going to do something to harm you. Like I said, it's very important to answer those questions on the forms truthfully, and a small mistake which has not been corrected at the time of the interview may cost you your citizenship. They may deny you if they catch you on lying on your forms. And I cannot even tell you how many situations I've seen when people paid so-called form filler, or they call themselves also paralegals or notaries. They paid them a lot of money to fill out those forms. However, they failed to check if the person was actually an attorney, and turns out they weren't, so they bear no responsibility for what they're doing. They are very often unqualified, incompetent, and they harmed them. They put something in the application which ended up greatly harming the person, not only a citizenship denial situation, but also, a lot of other issues which may result from lying on your application. So I would strongly suggest, do not waste your money on incompetent form fillers who may claim they know it all, but I assure you they don't, because they haven't studied law for as many years as the attorneys have to study law. They haven't taken the bar exam. They don't have the knowledge that is required. And this is a very important application. It's not like just one of the basic forms that you fill out on daily basis. This is an event, a lifetime event. Becoming a US citizen, that's a big thing. So make sure, if you want to hire someone to fill out your forms, make sure to hire a proper, competent person. You can always go online and check the local bar. Florida bar is for the state of Florida, obviously. That's where my main practice is located. However, in this case, I am here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I can also practice law in New Mexico because it's federal. I can practice immigration law in New Mexico, no other. So basically, if you want to check if I am an attorney, you would need to ask me in which state I am licensed. I would tell you I'm licensed in Florida. However, because it's federal immigration any attorney who is licensed to practice in any state in the United States is able to help you with immigration law. So you can check my credentials on Florida Bar. Otherwise, if you're using an attorney from another state, you can ask them in which state are you licensed, and you can go online and verify that information. So make sure that your attorney is licensed to practice law. For immigration law, it may be any state, as long as it's the United States of America. Another question that I have here. How long is the wait for my application to be processed? So again, like I said before, it depends. It depends. Sometimes it's just random, but sometimes some cases take longer than others. I would say be prepared for at least the average, at least I would say minimum 5-6 months at this time. Right now, as we are recording this seminar, on this date, it would be at least 6 months. But like I said, it all depends. There will be applications that take much longer. I've heard about people who have waited for their interview over a year. And there will be applications that were processed much faster. So there is no general rule, but be prepared for a few months. Let me see what else do I have here. Oh, okay, good question. Can I get help if I am disabled? So yes, you can ask for assistance. Like for example, if you use a wheelchair, or if you are hearing impaired or legally blind, you can definitely ask the USCIS to facilitate the process for you. You need to ask for assistance on your form. So when you are filling out your form, there's going to be a question about it, and you would have to, at that time, put it on your form that you are asking for assistance because you're disabled. Another good question. What can I do if I cannot attend my interview on the date? So that's a very good question, very important question. So basically you must attend your interview on the date given. If you cannot attend it, you have to notify the USCIS in advance and reschedule it. There is a special process for rescheduling your interview, so you must make sure that you follow that process and let them know. And that way you're not losing your filing fees, because if you just not show up to your interview, you're risking denial of your application, and then you're going to lose your filing fees and you would have to refile. So it's important to let them know in advance and make sure that they reschedule your interview if you cannot attend it. Another good question, can I change my name during the naturalization process? Yes, you can. So this is a good opportunity for all the immigrants who have difficult names, names difficult to pronounce in the United States. They can change their name at this point. So you just put it in your application, and since this is federal, the federal court has the power to change your name, and then you just update it on your documents after your naturalization ceremony. Another question. How long after the interview will I have my oath ceremony? That depends. That varies from the field office to field office. So in certain states, they move fast, and they can even schedule you for your oath ceremony on the same day. Believe it or not, some states handle citizenship applications efficiently and quickly, and you may be able to attend the oath ceremony on the same day. But A lot of offices will just let you know that you have been pre-approved or approved, and you will receive your notice of oath ceremony in the mail. And that may take time, so it depends. It may be 2 weeks after your interview, or it may be longer, or it may be shorter. But they can either schedule you right away, even on the same day, or they can have you wait in the waiting room and tell you, we'll call you shortly to let you know when your oath ceremony is scheduled for. So in that case, you just need to wait, and they give you your notice of oath ceremony right away after you have completed your interview. Or you can leave, you can go home and wait for your interview notice to come in the mail. I believe we are at this point running out of time. This particular seminar was reserved for 1 hour, so we're approaching our 1 hour time. However, like I said, I'm going to make myself available to everybody after the seminar. So please, if you would like to ask me some additional questions, please make sure to come to me. I will hang around for a while to make sure that everybody's questions were addressed. And if you would like to hire me to help you with your citizenship application, as I said, I'll be happy to do so. I can help you in any state in the United States. So either here, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I actually practice from here too. I have my second office here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, or in Florida, where my principal main office is, or any other state in the United States. I actually represent clients from all over the United States. There is no limitations. So please make sure to let me know. You can write down my phone number. Let me give you my cell phone number. My direct cell phone number that you can call is 813-786-3911. So you can call me at this cell phone number. I also have other numbers, local numbers to contact me. My office number 727-538-4171, or you can email me, check my website piaseccalaw.com, and you can also check my reviews. I think that's very important to check attorneys' reviews before you hire them. I pride myself from having over 350 reviews at this time, 5-star reviews from actual clients, and those reviews have been verified by an independent company. They have been posted on independent websites, which are not my websites, Google Business, avo.com. So feel free to go there and check my reviews, my credentials. I have been practicing law in the United States for over 10 years now. And prior to coming to the United States, I already was a lawyer in Poland. Okay, thank you very much for attending, and I will hang around after to answer all your questions. And for those of you who decide to leave, I wish you a great day, and I hope to see you again in my next seminar.